The final page is the surveys page, and this will walk you through the steps that you need to follow to fill in your survey information. So the first step is making sure that you are signed in. So if you already registered for this training or have done this, signed in, you have already created that account. So just make sure that you are signed in with that account. If not, you can click on that sign up button on the home page or that star on the left-hand side, and that will pop up with this window, which will let you create an account either directly using your Gmail or Facebook account, or you can also create it with another email account. And this is where you'll put in your first name, last name, and email information. So now that you are signed in and you have attended the training and you've gotten training materials from our training page, you can click on go to our site survey. That's step number 3. So this is the first survey where you will tell us about your site, which will be your home, for example, or your school garden. So this may consist of a few different patches, but you will have one site, unless you're doing your house and then maybe a neighborhood garden. That would be a separate site. So if in that case, you would do this survey twice, but generally you should be only filling the survey out once. So once you've filled out that survey telling us about your site, you will get an automatic email from us that will give you the links, which you will use to monitor your patch every week. It's also where you will get a link to the July measurement survey. So this is where you will do this survey one time in July, and I'll talk more about these surveys in a moment. So step 5 is actually doing the weekly patch survey. So as you mentioned, this is the weekly survey you'll fill out every week for each patch. So if you have 2 patches, you'll fill out this survey twice a week. And then finally, there's that July measurement survey. So now we'll take a look at that first survey. So this is that survey where you're telling us about your site. So first we're going to ask you to put your name and email. And this is that email address where you will get your automated email with your additional links. We're then asking you to tell us a little bit more about your site, including a description of it and the location. And on our homepage, as I mentioned, there is a map of the different site locations. Now, we're not telling everybody exactly where you live, so if you do zoom in, that point will disappear. So it'll just give the general area of your neighborhood, but won't give your home address. And if you would like, you can actually add a label to that point. So you can say, you know, it's my garden, or you can give your name if you want to tell your neighbors it's you. We also have a few questions about what is inside and outside of your site, and these are related to the National Monitoring Project that Erica mentioned. So we will be submitting this data at the end of the summer to their project. So these are some of the questions that they are interested in. And they are also interested in your garden maintenance. So knowing if you are adding any fertilizer or compost, and also if you're doing any weeding. The next step is to tell us how many patches are in your site. So we're generally expecting only up a max of 6 patches. So please don't try to do more than that. This is set for a max of 6. So for each of those patches, you're going to give each patch a unique name, and this will help you identify that patch in that email address, so you know which patch you're going to monitor. So rather than patch number 1, patch number 2, you may want to say front yard, backyard. Just be descriptive so you can know that. And don't use any special characters, but the survey will prompt you to make sure you don't. We also want to know if more than 50% are in containers. As Erica mentioned, this is one of the research areas that we are interested in learning more about. We also are asking when the patch was planted. And then finally, we want to know the number of milkweed species. So if you have multiple species in your patch, we want you to tell us the name of each species and how many plants you are seeing at the beginning. And finally, the date emerged. You have then the option to submit a photo. And as we mentioned, you will then get this automated email. So this is an example email. So I here have one patch, and it's telling me the name of my patch, and it's giving me the link that I will use every week to survey that patch. It's also giving me the link to survey in July. And if you do lose this email, we can send you these links as well. There's also a description of a related project that we were hoping to do this summer, but due to current conditions, we can't. But our colleague would love to know if it is a project that you are interested. So please take a look, and you can reach out to them if you are interested. So the second survey that you will do. So this is a survey that you will do every week. and you will do it for each patch. So 2 patches, you do this twice a week. As we mentioned, you have that email link, and what is great about that link is that it will fill in some of the information from that first survey. So it'll fill in the name of the patch, the number of species, the species name, and how many plants you counted. And that plant count will be the same number on every time you do this survey. So we do want you to keep an eye out. If that plant number changes, please go ahead and insert that and adjust the number that's in there, but it will always start off with the number you counted the first time. In addition, we'll ask that you record the day and the time survey. You can then tell us if you saw any eggs, and then if yes, how many, if you saw any caterpillars, and then if yes, how many of each stage, and then if you saw any chrysalises or pupa. As we noted, oftentimes you won't see those chrysalises on the milkweed themselves, but it is in that section, so you can still record it under one of those milkweed species if you didn't note it. Finally, we have an optional area where you can tell us about if you've seen any adult monarchs, and also about any of the other insects or spiders observed. Many people last year shared with us about some of the insects they were seeing, so we want to give you that opportunity to tell us more. You can also tell us about the blooming plants that are also in the patch. And then finally, all of our favorite parts is if you want to, you can submit a photo and story observation from your week's monitoring. And we got over 100 photos last year. It was great. It was definitely one of our favorite things, and we've shared many of those photos. So that's great. So as Erica mentioned, there is the data sheet, which you again can download from our training page. That is optional as a way to record it, but we do require you to record electronically. And we do encourage you to try and do it weekly if possible, just so you don't end up with a backlog of data. But generally, make sure that you are recording on the survey link. Finally, the third survey that you will do just one time in the month of July is to fill out the measurement survey. So again, by clicking on that link in your email, it's going to automatically fill in a lot of the information, such as the number of patches you had at your site, patch name, and the different species. And then you just have to tell us what was the shape of the patch, and then depending on that shape, if it was a circle or square, what are the dimensions? So the diameter or the side and width.